Chapter 1. Morgan Sierra walked through the grand neoclassical entrance of the British Museum into the great court. The early morning sun filtered through the panelled glass ceiling high above, casting lined shadows onto the cool stone beneath her feet. Morgan couldn't help but smile to be here again, a place of magic for anyone as obsessed with seeking knowledge as she was. Part of her wanted to turn right toward the Enlightenment Gallery, where every object was a gateway to another rabbit hole of research. Coming here had once been for pleasure only, but now this kind of research was part of her job at the ARKANE Religious Knowledge and Numinous Experience Institute, known as ARKANE, the world's most advanced and secret research center for investigating supernatural mysteries. For a moment, a shadow crossed her face. The last time she had been here, the main exhibition had been religious relics, the blood and bone of saints, sponsored by a man she had later seen turn into a demon in the Bone Church of Sedlitz. Morgan's hand rose to her left side, where the scar he had carved still throbbed in the cold of morning. She shook her head, casting aside the memories. Every mission with ARKANE had its own blend of violence and mystery, and Morgan had accepted both as part of her new life. After Budapest, she had asked for some time to investigate a book that had been sent to her from Spain, the address label in her father's handwriting, although he had been killed by suicide bombers years ago. The impossible package was on her mind now, but Director Marietti had deemed this more urgent, and she had been sent to investigate an artifact on loan to the museum from a private collection of Viking ritual objects. With Morgan's background in the psychology of religion, Marietti thought she would be ideally placed to assess whether ARKANE should send a replica back to the exhibition so they could study the actual artifact privately in the secret vaults below Trafalgar Square. "Dr. Sierra?" Morgan turned toward the voice. "Good morning. The curator sends his apologies, but he's preparing for a big tour. I'm Blake Daniel, another researcher here. He's briefed me on your request, so I'll be taking you through to see it." Morgan hid her surprise at his appearance with a smile of welcome. With coffee skin and piercing blue eyes, a #1 buzz cut and designer stubble, Blake looked as if he had just come from the set of a music video, not the dusty corridors of the museum. A fleeting thought crossed her mind that she wouldn't say no to a drink with him either. Blake held out a hand, and Morgan noticed his gloves, a light coffee color that ensured they didn't stand out too much against his darker skin. It struck her as strange nonetheless to be wearing them indoors on a day that was already warming up. She shook his hand, wondering why he wore them. "So, tell me about the ARKANE Institute," Blake said as he led the way around the great court toward the Sainsbury wing where the special Viking exhibition was being held. "It must have some clout considering how fast your request to see the exhibit was processed." "The Institute is mainly a group of academics working as a collective. We publish academic articles and run seminars, primarily around religious artifacts and unusual findings." And then there's the rest of it, Morgan thought. The secret side of ARKANE, with agents working on supernatural mysteries around the world, generally at the flashpoints of religion and the occult. The ARKANE that held relics and sacred objects of power in the vaults deep under Trafalgar Square. The ARKANE where agents died to keep the rest of the world safe from things that most wouldn't even believe possible. The ARKANE that had threatened her family, and still woke Morgan with nightmares of flames and blood. Blake turned into the Egyptian Hall, where they walked past the Rosetta Stone and gigantic heads of the pharaohs. Every step within the British Museum was packed with treasures that alone would be wondrous, but here were dwarfed by the sheer volume of history. It was a place to be lost in wonder for days, and Morgan was fleetingly jealous of Blake for working here. "So, what's your particular interest in the staff of Skara Brae?" Blake asked. "It's not exactly the focal point of the exhibition. In fact, it's more of a sideshow." Morgan smiled, for the rabbit hole of intellectual curiosity was her own addiction, and anyone who worked in the museum would understand her fascinations.